Morning, everyone. Welcome to this morning session. And we're very excited to be with Andre and Jen again. We absolutely love you guys. We really enjoy what you guys bring every month on these Saturday mornings. It's early start, but it's a good start. And it's actually quite nice because you wake up and then you lie in bed and listen to birds singing away. So, all right, let's get into the preamble and then we will get on to the talk for the day. You want to start?
No, you doing the preamble.
Okay. So this is a sacred this is a sacred and respectful environment. In our time together, we will not be sharing personal or private details about our marriages. Instead, our focus will be discovering where and how to find God in our relationships and on building a safe space that nurtures trust, respect, and connection. We ask that you listen with an open heart, speak from your own experience, and allow others to have space. This session will be recorded so that future couples who join us can benefit from the teaching and encouragement shared here. No one will be included in the recording unless they have given express permission. If you do not give consent, any part of the video where you appear will be identified and edited out before the recording is made available. So here are the principles for the session. We trust the process. God is here, seeking together, create safety for every heart, fully present, and care for one another. We're excited to journey with all of you this morning. So let's invite God into the space and every word
And
spoken
into
today.
every word spoken.
So we hand over to you, Andre and Jen. We are looking forward to what you have to bring us this morning.
Thanks so much, Kevin. Thanks, Michelle. And I just want to say congratulations to everybody who's here on Easter Saturday morning. I know that Jen and I yesterday, we said, oh my word, after we had led a service in the morning and then gone and scattered her father's ashes in the afternoon. And we thought, what are we doing? But it's actually good. It's so good. I'm just, it's such, yeah.
It's a privilege to be here.
It's a real privilege to be here, and we feel honored that so many people have joined. So God bless you. And Jen's just going to pray before we start, and then we'll get into our material. Okay.
Father, thank you for this morning. I thank you for life and breath. And as we wait in this precious time between the cross and the resurrection, we know that it gives us space to be somewhere between dying to our own flesh and being raised and having that immeasurable power to look to a hopeful future. So we ask your blessing on this morning, and that the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts will be acceptable in your sight. Holy Spirit, have your way in each of our lives, in each of our marriages, as you have determined today. Amen.
Amen. Okay. So the folks, we're doing the second session on conflict solutions, and the route we have taken is saying, how do we actually stop ourselves from getting into those solutions?
I'm zooming out one level. Remember, we're talking about intimacy and desire.
There we go. Okay.
So that's Andre and Jen. The intimacy and desire. So now we had started earlier with looking at the sexual cycle, and now we're looking at desire. And desire is based on intimacy. How much do you trust to be able to get into those other phases of helping to have a very healthy marriage sexually? And it's a lot of it's about emotional intimacy, and then how we get to those places when there is conflict. And so we're drilling down today into some of the more details. And then, it's just picking up from last time, which I think that's where you're starting now.
Thanks, Jen, for catching me up on myself, which is always helpful. All right, so let's quickly just remind ourselves what we went through last time. No, but today we're going to look first at what does the meaning and what could the meaning of Easter Saturday be for us in terms of intimacy and desire, as well as solutions for conflict. Okay, so what actually happened on this day many, many years ago that we remember? Well, the first thing, I suppose, which is most important, is that Jesus, although he was in the tomb, his spirit was going wild. Okay, it was defeating the powers of darkness, and he was getting the keys of life and death, well, specifically death and hell, from the enemy, which is it's a significant thing. And then we see that it's for us on the earth, and for those who would have been thinking what has actually happened, it would be a day where they would pause and consider that Jesus, their Savior King, because remember, They were all expecting Jesus to come back or be the king that would overthrow Rome. And they would be thinking on all of the events of what took place on that Friday. Many people would have been very disappointed. Many people would be completely confused. For us today, it's also a time for us to think, what would have happened yesterday? How did it really impact our lives? And that's what we should be doing on this Saturday, is looking at, wow, the trauma that Jesus went through. What was that all about, and what did it bring us? And then the third thing, which I think, well, it's the fourth point on our slide here, and I think this is quite significant, in that the Pharisees and the people of the synagogue were very fearful that the disciples were going to come and steal Jesus's body. And there was a huge altercation between them and the Romans, because they wanted two guards as well as Caesar's seal on the stone, so that nobody could touch that stone and get the body of Jesus. And so in all of this, we're in a position, and certainly in our relationships and in our marriage, I think it's very helpful for us to firstly know that there is nothing that cannot be redeemed. Everything through Jesus can be redeemed. He, on this day, we remember that he went and he fought the final fight against hell and death, all right? And he got those keys. And so wherever our marriage is today, we've got to know that the final battle took place today, and we can be victors if we put our hope in God, if we put our hope in what Jesus did today, okay? And the second thing is for us to look back on the tough times of our marriage, all right? For us to think of what Jesus went through. And, the disciples, as well as Mary, his mother, and the other ladies in his disciple clan, they would have been so confused. Now, I don't know about you, but for Jen and me, there have been times where in our marriage, we've been completely confused. We've thought, what the heck? What has gone on here? Why have
Sometimes
we...
it's felt like hell.
Yeah, and what, how have we hurt each other? Sometimes it's been because we as a couple have come under attack. Sometimes it's been because Jen has come under attack and it's affected me, and vice versa. But, Sunday's coming. And yes, we need to look at the pain. We've got to count it, because no pain, when God has redeemed it, must be forgotten. All right? Because that pain becomes a scar when the wounds are healed through Jesus. Okay? And then finally, it's for us to say, what barriers do we put over the space of our heart? All right? What is the stone? What are the guards that we put over the opening to our heart, and to our hearts being changed and to be set free to come into the freedom that Jesus paid for us? Okay?
Sometimes it's our words that seal that stone. We make vows. We say, I will never, or there's not a chance.
Yeah.
And we seal the space in our heart. Sometimes it's our wounds in that
Yeah.
space. And sometimes it's just hope, because we've said things,
Well, it's a lack of
a
hope.
lack
It's
of
hopelessness.
hopelessness.
Yeah.
That we then say things over our marriage, which stops the Lord being able to act, because words are powerful.
Yeah. Extremely powerful.
Words create and words destroy.
So as we go through the material this morning, we really, we hope that you start just seeing some kind of light in the darkness that for many of us find ourselves in, maybe in our marriage, maybe in our personal lives. So let's just look back at what we've looked at concerning intimacy. So just to remind ourselves that in relationships, intimacy is a part of a number of things. In relationships, we all need safety. We all need security. We all need to live day-to-day life experiences one-on-one, next to each other, and that also includes sex. Okay, so intimacy is just part of what we experience every day in a relationship with a marriage partner. Okay, and intimacy in relationships includes not only sexual relationships, but a whole lot of different things. Okay, we have intimacy and closeness just in our intellectual interactions. Okay. And Jen has a new thought and a wonderful idea all the time. Okay.
Full of
Her
ideas.
brain is always going, and she sparks a lot of inspiration in me because of her intellectuality. It's quite amazing. I think I'm also intellectual to some degree. Jen is a social being. She's incredible with people. We can't walk outside in our driveway without Jen having met someone and striking up a conversation. And I want to say the car is going. I really, we can reverse and leave now. Okay, but it's wonderful because she always makes people feel included. Recreational intimacy. Okay, we can walk up a mountain. We went up Table Mountain the other night together, and we got to the top, and it was absolutely dark, and the cloud came in, and it was so dark up there. There was nothing to see.
It was fog, and it was so quiet and so beautiful.
It was actually really cool. So just doing things that are recreational. We would have wanted to see, whatever was there, but just the moment was really precious to us. Okay, and emotional intimacy. I tend to be more emotionally aware than Jen sometimes, but Jen is growing in that. It's incredible. And so I'm just understanding how we feel and acknowledging our own feelings and then each other's feelings is really good. Family intimacy. My word, can family mess that up, eh? What our brothers and sisters may say, what our children say.
What we refer to as children,
Yeah, in our
child
marriage.
syndromes in our families. But being able to talk about it, remember, intimacy is knowing and being known.
Yeah,
So even within our families, it helps to tell the stories because each of us have a different insight into how our family worked or didn't work.
yeah,
Yeah, so that's family intimacy.
yeah. And then career intimacy. All right. It's wonderful to be able to come home and share with Jen the victories of my day. Not so cool when I come back and share the negatives all the time.
Although I've always got ideas of what should have happened, which is
Yes.
really helpful. Well, you should have done this, or could you have done that? Would
Yeah.
that have been helpful? And so we're learning how to phrase those, or we're learning how to just zip it. Sometimes the best, the most loving thing you can do is just zip it.
Yeah. Okay. So, folks, I think we're just reminding you that we can be intimate. We can know and be known in every one of these parts of the pie. All right. And if we can develop vocabulary and healthy communication, all right, then we can really stop or protect ourselves from getting into conflictual circumstances. All right. Some of these things may raise conflict. Okay. But then we've got to learn how we can deal with that conflict in a healthy way. And hopefully today we're going to be able to learn a bit about that.
So, as part of intimacy, remember it's important that there's healthy boundaries. So, this is how I'm feeling about something, but is it helpful for me to push that onto somebody else? Because I own my own ability to respond to this. And so, if I'm hurt or upset,
Yeah.
where is it where can I take responsibility for that? And or to say, okay, I'm so sorry you're struggling with that. You've perceived it like that.
Yeah.
What is that about? Are you able to deal with that?
Yeah, we'll get into that a bit more just now. So we spoke about this last time, but I think in the context of today, barriers to relational intimacy can be our children, our finances, mistrust, communication, the unseen things, the unheard things, being misunderstood, and our own triggers. Okay. Now, I think, remember, we spoke at the beginning about the stone rolled in front of the tomb. And sometimes we can keep the stone there. And so if you think about it, in the last week, which one of these things, okay, have you held on to that has stopped you from being free? Okay, so was it something around your children? Okay, maybe they did something and you reacted, or one of you reacted in a way. And as a result of that, you held it against each other or against your child even. And in that way, you're putting the stone over your heart and not entering into a space of freedom. Was it about your finances, maybe? Was it about feeling unseen? Was it about being misunderstood? All right. So I hope you're starting to realize, we've got to be a bit aware. We've got to be aware of what are the things that we allow to actually become the stone. And we become so dogged about it that we actually even get some guards and we get Caesar's seal and we say, it's not moving. All right. And that's just stubbornness. And that's not going to allow me to be known and to know. I'm not going to create intimacy. And ultimately, there's not going to be desire for each other either as a result of it.
Especially if you can sense that there's some no-go areas, or you've actually declared, actually, we're just not going there. And so that is a nice indicator light of, where the trust can improve, the responsibility to make yourself vulnerable. Because, like with Jesus, how the love grows is in vulnerability and in sacrifice. He didn't feel like going to that tomb, as we know, before Easter. But the fact that he allowed his body to go to literally to hell, for the sake of the resurrection. And some of our marriages do need resurrection.
Yeah.
But and we find ourselves in hell. But how do we get out of that? And some of that is firstly just confessing to get that seal off, and then allowing, and with God's help and encouragement of a community, to say, how does this get rolled away so that I can deal with my pain and just see that light in the darkness? It was a new hope.
Okay, so let's just see. Last month, sorry, we looked at intimacy, and remember we spoke about mind mapping. And remember that mind mapping actually causes us to embrace our neocortex, which is the most human part of our being. And so we spoke about the fact that when we engage each other, we always come to the engagement with our own story. All right. Part of intimacy, part of getting to know each other, part of resolving conflict is for us to first understand our own mind map. Why do I come to this circumstance in the way I do? Okay. It was maybe something that happened today, something that happened last week, something that happened when I was a child. Okay. We all have mind maps and we all have things that trigger us. And so we need to recognize them firstly, and be aware that we bring them to a circumstance. And then we looked at the 4 pillars of creating balance. And last time we said, let's all get up and give each other a hug. Okay. So I can hug Jen, all right, and she can nestle into me and I can nestle into her. And it's a pretty balanced hug. Okay. But if we're in a bad way, okay, then Jen might say, give me a hug, and I'll go like this. Yes, I'm giving you a hug.
It's like, I'm hugging you, but just stay a little bit far away.
Okay, there's no balance. Or if I just need Jen to hear me, or I'm frustrated with her, I might say, come here.
Like I don't feel
Okay.
like it.
All right. So we're really wanting to develop a lifestyle where we can be balanced people.
And that's emotionally and physically. So
And spiritually. Yeah. So we looked at 2 of the 4 points of balance. All right. So those are the columns in the diagram there. We looked at the solid yet flexible self. All right. So we spoke about that it is when we know who we are, but we know that who we are allows us to be kind and to embrace something different and to love people. We don't have to be stubborn and say, this is me and everybody must change to accept me. We are very solid in who we are, but so solid that we are willing to actually love and give. And then a quiet mind, calm heart, that is the ability to self-soothe. All right. And we all need to learn mechanisms and ways in which we can actually go off by ourselves and name, claim, tame, and aim our emotions so that they do not define who we are and ultimately our spouse and our marriage in general. Okay. So that's what we did last time. So this time we are going to look at the grounded responding and meaningful endurance. Okay. Those are the 2 things that we're going to take a look at today. And the first one we're going to look at is grounded responding. Okay, so that is not reacting to things, rather responding. Okay, another way of saying it is staying calm without overreacting. It's choosing to stay rather than creating distance. So, in other words, to stay present. Okay. When we react, we often either push or we pull or we run. Okay, so we've got to realize that. And if we're going to stop reacting, we're going to choose to be present, to stay.
It's
Yeah.
much easier, these words seen on a slide, than living it. But the nice thing about it is that when we don't do these things, once again, it's an indicator like, oh gosh, this is a place in which I need to grow. I just reacted, that didn't go down well. So if I wanted a better, a result next time, how do I change my thinking on it? How do I say, actually, I'm okay. Now we're putting a guard in front of our mouths. When do you need
Yeah.
that protection? Yeah, just to slow ourselves down for that.
And I think, folks, we're also giving you vocabulary. Okay. So when you're in the heat of an argument, maybe you can say, actually, I'm not staying here. I want to run and withdraw. I'm wanting to pull you into my emotion, and I only want you to understand me. And so hopefully it's also just giving you information to understand each other.
To say, I see you. I see, I understand if you want to run.
Mm.
Um,
So we're going to
Yeah.
get into those statements now. So the next way in which we stay is we know who is responsible for their emotions. That's a big one. Okay. All right. I need to be responsible for mine, not expect Jen to be responsible for mine, and vice versa. Okay. And then using language to clarify rather than taking offense. And so we see in Matthew 27, verse 62 to 63. So this would be on Easter Friday, and this is actually Saturday. All right. The chief priests and Pharisees went to Pilate and said, Sir, we remember that while he was still alive, that deceiver, okay, there we go, that deceiver, they were not responding, they were reacting. They were reacting to their belief that Jesus was the deceiver. So they said, that deceiver said, after 3 days I will rise again. Okay. As a result of that reaction, they got the Romans to put the guards and the stone over the tomb. Okay.
Seal.
The seal over the tomb. So let's look quickly at some of the ways in which we can stop reacting and rather respond. Jesus did it really well when he was in front of Pilate. Meanwhile, Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, Are you the king of the Jews? Right? What could Jesus have done? How could he have reacted? He could have really pointed a finger at them. He could have told them how idiotic they were. He could have really been angry with his disciples, whoever.
He could have quoted the Psalms, and from
Yeah.
all the prophets, he could have proved himself with all the, the things that have gone, the prophecies that have gone before, to show that he was the king of the
Yeah.
Jews.
But he was quiet and calm, and he was present. And he said, You have said so, right? Quite incredible. Okay. So maybe he did one of these methods. I'm not sure. But I think I think he was so resolved after Gethsemane that he was in God's will. But anyway, so some tools. Utilize the 4-3-2-1 method. Okay, just where you are right now. Let's utilize this. Okay, look and see 5 things. Look around you and see 5 things. Okay, I've seen my 5. Okay, look at 4 things that you can touch. I can touch you.
I can put my fingers in the plug.
Okay, you could do that, yes. All right, then think of 3 things that you can hear right now. Okay, think of 2 things that you can smell. Hopefully you've brushed your teeth. But anyway, 2 things that you can smell, okay? And then think of 1 thing that you could taste. All right, so that is one way in which we can keep ourselves from reacting, to stop and keep ourselves present. All right, we're not going to run away. In the vicinity where we are, we can become present and we can calm ourselves and stay. Okay, the next one is to PBR. Okay, to pause, breathe, and relax. Okay, pause, breathe, and relax. Okay, I'm sure you've all heard of box breathing. Breathe in for 5, hold for 5, breathe out for 5, and wait for 5. Then breathe in. Okay, so that's the breathing. Obviously, relaxing, maybe take a chill pill, go and lie down, go outside, listen to a bird. I don't know. Whatever causes you to relax. But pause, press the pause button, okay? And then self-empathy, all right? Many of us in that moment, we're very aware of the trigger. We're not aware of the underlying emotion. So we need to acknowledge our internal process with kindness. And a way to do this, I know this sounds very funny and a bit like the American national anthem. All right, we can place our hand on our heart, all right, or on our belly. Okay, I sometimes don't want to place my hand on my belly because my granddaughter said to me, Dad, the other day, Granddad, are you pregnant? Now that was just rude. But anyway,
When
so
is your baby coming?
Anyway, so let's get to, so we can place our hand on our heart, okay, and just settle. And so, okay, I'm feeling this. This is my emotion, okay? And apparently, that touch, either on the heart or on the belly, takes us from our amygdala or our reptilian brain into our rational mind. Okay, so it stops us from staying in that place of discomfort and takes us into more of a rational space. Okay, so these are all ways in which we can stay present. Okay, then the next thing is for us to actually acknowledge our own feelings and our spouse's feelings. Okay, we see that Jesus, about 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani. All right, and it means, my God, why have you forsaken me? You know, when Jesus did that, it wasn't blasphemy. He was being very honest with his feelings. Now, when we are in a heated argument, when we are in a heated place of feeling squeezed by whatever it is, okay, we can stop and we can acknowledge our feelings. It's not a sin. But I want to say it's not helpful to acknowledge them to our partner. We've actually got to acknowledge them to ourselves first, okay? How can we do that? We can say, I realize how frustrated, disappointed, or stressful this must be for me. Okay? I can see why I'm upset about this. It makes sense that I feel this emotion given this situation. I understand that this is important to me. Okay? I hear myself and I understand my point. And guess what? We also need to thank ourselves for stopping. All right. So, guys, often people only do this or say this in the context of their partner. And I want to say we need to be aware of what's going, and we've got to have compassion for the chumos, even if it means I've hurt my spouse. I've got to go there and I've got to lovingly embrace myself because God does that. It's not saying that I hold on to my emotion, which might be wrong. It's saying, I hear you, I see you, I understand it. Because I understand it, I don't have to run away. I can be present, okay? I can also take responsibility for my emotion. Remember, it was one of the things that we spoke about, all right? And I don't need Jen or believe that she needs to take responsibility for it.
So it's that thing, love one another as you love yourself.
Yeah.
And so, when it's the loving of one another is not coming so easily, to begin with the loving oneself and how you work it out in the process. Because if you don't love yourself, how do you expect someone else to love you? And I think that's why in marriage, it's, as someone said, it's not for you. Marriage is not there for you to be happy. It's there for you to be holy. It's there for you to learn to know yourself and love yourself and then love each other more. And that's where the security of a covenant in marriage really can help that. And within the context of being able to work that stuff out, then is the joy of emotional and physical intimacy. So just bringing it back in the context, we're looking at loving oneself in order that you can love another. Loving oneself in order that you can receive the love from others, especially if you don't deserve it. In that space when you don't deserve it or you don't feel deserving of giving it.
So then if we put it towards our spouse, all right, and we can say, I realize how frustrated, disappointed, and stressed you must feel. Okay? This must be for you. All right, that's better language. I can see why you're upset about this. It makes sense that you feel angry, sad, you feel irritated, you feel very despondent, you feel depressed, you feel hopeless given the situation. I understand that this is very important to you. Okay, but guys, we've got to be honest with each other and we've got to be authentic. I can stand why this is so important to you. That's how we can be. But this is when we really are being there and present for each other. I hear you and I understand your point, And then wouldn't it be beautiful if, even if it's hurt us, we can say, thank you for sharing that with me. Now, I know that Michelle and Kevin are with us, and Michelle, I just love her way of dealing with things. She would say, don't use I and me statements, okay? And I think there's something to it, but we can change these statements and we can say, can we realize how upset we are? Can we realize why these emotions are so important to us? Okay?
Is it possible that we can do that? Also,
Yes.
just saying, is it possible that we,
Yeah.
that we can stand back from this?
So I think there are times where we can just say we can acknowledge each other's feelings by using I, but I think it is helpful at times to change it to the we. All right. So just quickly, right where you are now, what barrier can you remove from your life or your marriage today? Not tomorrow, not later, right now, think about it. What barrier can you remove from your life or marriage today so that you can live from a place of grounded responding? Take a while to think about that. Okay, please keep that in your mind because I really think it would be a good thing, a good discussion to have with your spouse.
A coffee and a hot cross bun.
Hot cross bun, yes. Okay, all right. So the next thing we're going to look at is the last pillar, and that is living with a meaningful endurance. Often we forget in the heat of the moment when we're at each other, we forget, you know what? There is so much more to live for. Okay, God has given us so much more that we can hold on to that is very meaningful and can give us the endurance to get over this. Okay. And so just 3 points here. And they are you sure? Okay. You can ask yourself now, are you absolutely sure of your personal standing with God? All right. Are you absolutely sure? If you look at what happened yesterday, maybe in your personal life, maybe in your marriage, maybe with the family, okay? Were there things there that were too bad that you maybe put before God and say, no, I'm not sure about my standing with God today? We've got to deal with that ourselves, guys. That's not something I can ask Jen to deal with for me. That's something I need to deal with.
So for me, I sometimes, because I wasn't very emotionally aware, it took like 3 days from the incident to when I actually felt it, which is a bit far. Yeah, but just saying, to feel it. And sometimes we just start acting out, almost like children, having a tantrum, or we just irritable and whatever. We don't know why. To find that place to stop and say, you know what, I'm really irritable. I don't get why. Let me go figure this out. And sometimes it's needing permission from your partner to say, listen, this is not great at the moment. I can see that I'm irritated. Can you give me some time to go and figure it out?
Yeah, and figure out your personal standing with God. It's as literal as that.
Sometimes it's guilt, or sometimes it's just, not being sure. Like Andre said, are you absolutely sure where you stand with God? And sometimes you need to go to God by the scruff of the neck, Lord, help me to see where you are. Read some of those Psalms from the middle there and let them impact you. Every emotion is in the Psalms. So when all else fails, go read the Psalms aloud until you bump into an emotion that you're feeling. Yeah, just to get the gravity of where you are with God and ask Him to show you, and don't stop until you hear the answer.
Yeah.
Till you know the answer.
Okay, so that's the first one. All right. A meaningful endurance is that I know my standing with God. All right. If something had to happen to me today, I know I'm safe. I know. And then, do you know that you have a specific calling over your life? All right. And then, what is the calling over you as a couple and then as a family? All right. If you have children. Okay. Now, this, I'll be honest, for Jen and me, this makes us very excited because we love helping people in understanding their identity, because these things really settle who we are in Christ. And they also help us to do what Jesus said. He said he had all authority in heaven and earth, and then he could say, therefore go. Jesus knew his identity. He knew his meaningful, enduring calling on his life was to live a life, to do what he did on earth, to die and be resurrected the way he did, so that he could say to us, now go guys, go and do it. Okay. And so we need to find that out for ourselves. All right. So we've spoken about our standing with God. Do you know that you're saved? Do you know that Jesus Christ is Lord of your life? Okay. And we're not saved once, maybe when I was 7 years old, when my sister helped me come to Christ. I've had to be resaved over and over and over and over. Guys, we've got to really be honest about this. Okay.
Jesus did it once for all, but
Yeah.
our processing of that once for all needs to work out in our every single day.
Yeah. I think we've got to be careful that we don't always think we're not saved. That's as bad as believing that we saved just once. All right. And then, do you carry the truth? So this is a big one. Do you carry the truth about the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit? Okay. Because often our experiences in life really dirty and muddy what we understand the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit to be. Okay. And that is what we do in the truth journey that some of the couples have done already. Okay, either with me and Jen or with Estelle and Andre. And we're going to be doing the truth journey again with Grace Online. We'll give the dates for that. But this really helps us to find out our lies when it comes to the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
It helps us to have a grounded response.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, when we understand the truths about this, it
Yeah.
helps us to get underneath our triggers.
And then the last thing, obviously, in our standing with God is, well, yeah, I might be born again. I might have truth about them, but then am I willing to obey? All right. I think if we look at South Africa, 95% of South Africans say that they are Christians. Think about that. If 95% of South Africans say they are Christians, then why do we have one of the highest gender-based violence rates in the world? Why is Cape Town number 4 in terms of gang violence? 95% of our country says they are Christians. The problem is that I think we are over-evangelized, over-saved, okay, but we are not discipled to be willing to obey. So this is a big, big point that we're needing to question, not only in terms of our country, but even in our relationships with each other.
So, for instance, I mean, and sometimes it's in the conflict that we forget our calling. So, just gives us a bigger picture as to where we're standing when we're talking about our own purpose, the calling, our standing with God, and our calling from God as to what to do. So, even within our marriages, and Andre and I know, well, if this is not something that is helping opening a door, creating a way forward, y- then we shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
If it's an argument that we're having, we have to realize actually, if we're going to stay in this place, we can't live out this calling. How do we open a door when I feel like a stuck hinge and I'm not moving on that
Yeah.
on that path?
Jen's actually talking about the next thing we're going to get to, but I think it does come down to, if I'm stuck, guess what? I'm actually not willing to obey.
And
Okay.
that sacrifice, Jesus
Yeah.
endured the cross because he was thinking of us, not because he felt like it. He had the big picture of where does my whole life lead up to this point? And where does me just avoiding the sacrifice, hijack the calling and the purpose for which I have been called?
Yeah. Okay. So now we go to our personal specific calling. All right. This excites me hugely. And Jen, what are your inborn gifts and talents? Okay. And really, I want to encourage you to think about that. When you were 5 and 6 years old, what was the thing that you took absolute delight in? All right. I would really encourage you to write down all of your gifts and talents. What were the things that brought you joy? What were the activities that you could just do well naturally? To find out, who are you and what is God made you to be, because that's your personal calling.
What are the things you're curious about? Children are naturally curious. So even if your family, well, all our families are actually dysfunctional in some way, but is to find out what were you curious about, and especially if it is something which was not considered a gender role and a stereotypical gender role, to also consider that that's actually okay to mention
Yeah.
now, because that could also be related to a deep lie in your life.
Yeah.
But to find that place of curiosity, and
It's a gift, it's a talent.
yeah,
And,
even if your
and to explore it.
family members didn't appreciate that, you
Okay.
did.
So I really, I would say, please take a photo of this and work on this for yourself. Okay, first. All right. But what are your personality styles? I mean, gee, guys, we can go to lots and lots and lots of personality styles and just find them out, work them out. Are you a D, an I, an S, or a C in the DISC one? Are you INFP? Are you a whatever in the Myers-Briggs? Okay, we know that these things, they can be wrong, okay, but it's just helpful to have insight. Then we've got to look and say, what have been the highs and the lows in my life? And how have they contributed to who I am? All right. All of those, we've all lived unique lives, but every high and low has actually caused a resilience or it's made me aware of what I really enjoy. Okay. And to find that out, to work out what makes me tick, where and when have you succeeded and failed? And how has it formed your character? Success sometimes forms less character than failure. All right. Remember, we fail and we fall forward. That should be the case instead of saying that our failures are a waste of time. And then finally, write your personal calling statement. Now, you're going to think, what the heck is that? And so Jen and I have done this over and over our lives. And we've got to our personal calling statement. And my personal calling statement over a lot of time of going through it, and yes, it has changed. So we've got to be careful. We don't get our calling statement and say, this is who I am, and I'm going to fight everybody so that I can have my calling statement. We hold it lightly, and it just helps us where I need to focus. So for me, my calling statement is to open doors and to break shame. Right? That's how I have got to my calling statement. And it gives me an enduring hope. Okay, there are many times where I think, what the heck am I doing? And I go back to my calling statement and I say, have I opened doors? Am I actually bringing hope? Am I breaking shame? And if I'm doing that, then I know I'm in my niche, okay? If I'm not doing that, you know what? I'm actually stopping somebody else from being their calling, and I'm causing myself to be miserable. Okay. I don't know, Jane, do you want to share what yours is?
I am a favored bridge. I love it when everybody's welcome to bridge the gap between exclusion and inclusion.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what Jen has found out. And when she gets frustrated in a day, she's got to go back to that and say, have I been a favored bridge? All
What
right.
gap am I bridging, or am I just have I been a drawbridge and just no, nobody?
So, but the big thing, guys, is once we've got our personal specific calling, we have to tend it ourselves. All right. It's for me to tend my calling, to be a shame breaker and a door opener. It's for Jen to tend her calling. Okay. I can't expect Jen to do it for me. She might encourage me in it, which is really cool, and I might encourage her. It's good for us to go back to that and not, again, we're not holding it as our right. We're holding it to find out, are we living in our truth or are we trying to be somebody else? Okay.
And I think that having that calling then puts your current little sort of places into perspective.
Yeah.
It's just right. This is the temporary thing we're going through because we understand our big calling together,
Yeah.
or yeah, our personal callings. And how do we release each other in that? So it's part of the companionship and the sharing. Once again, as we're just reminding ourselves where we're at, looking at how we can be grounded so we can increase the peace and desire for each other, the safe place together.
Yeah. And then we go to our calling as a couple or as a family. Okay. This is so exciting, guys. This is really cool. And what we do is we look at our gifts and our personalities and our callings and we say, okay, these complement us and each other. Okay. But this part of my calling actually polarizes us. Okay. And so isn't that good for us to realize? Our personal calling should not be the same. Please hear that, folks. Our personal calling must not be the same. We are different and we can celebrate our differences.
We're saved separately.
Yes. Yeah.
We live and die and go to heaven, it's separate.
Okay. And there's part of my shame breaking and my door opening that polarizes us in our marriage. There's part of Jen's calling to be inclusive of and a bridge builder, which polarizes us. Now, we've got to look at that.
Polarizing, by the way, just means going to opposite poles. One
And it
goes
actually
north, one
creates
goes south.
conflict.
It's a separation.
Okay. And we've got to know that. But we've got to also be content with that. And we've got to realize, well, actually, Jen must carry on and she can do that, and I bless her.
And
Doesn't that
sometimes
please me?
Yeah, and sometimes Andre's, gone through things or involved with conversations and leading things where I just think, I don't need to be part of this.
Absolutely.
God bless you.
Jen doesn't want to know about
that.
where I've broken shame. Enough now, okay? So we've got to know when it complements and when it polarizes so that we can be a team, all right? I know there are times when I'm out of my space and I can say, Jen, take over. And she can do that with me. And that's really cool.
And sometimes I make a way for him or he makes a
Yeah,
way for me.
yeah,
Because we realize actually this is not my thing, this is
yeah.
Andre's thing.
Then the next thing, to look at the lows and the highs that we've had in our marriage and how they contribute to our calling as a family or in our marriage. Yeah. And our lows have called us to some things. Okay. The shame that we felt in our marriage has caused me to be a shame breaker and for us to be shame breakers in many people's lives.
My sense of exclusion or unworthiness helped, made me think I never belonged.
Yeah.
So like Jesus' wounds turned into scars, we got to take our wounds and let them be scars of authority.
And that sense of not feeling that she belongs has really affected our marriage. It's caused a low. But when it becomes a scar because of Jesus' healing, then we can use it together, which is quite exciting. And then again, write your calling statement down. Okay? Hold it lightly. Okay? It's not something that I hold as a whip against Jen or against anybody else. I hold it lightly. And we need to review it, guys. We need to go there and we need to say, yeah. At that stage in my life, I was more of a shame breaker. I don't think I'm that anymore. Okay? This is not God. Okay. All right. And then we as a family have also come up with our calling statement. And ours just comes from
the blessing of Abraham.
which is in 12, Genesis 12, that we will be a blessing to many.
Blessed to be a blessing to all nations.
To all nations.
Even though we don't feel like we can always do that. But if we know that that's our family calling, it really knows how to position ourselves. And when our kids were little, we made a family crest. And we all decided what would be on there, and we cut out bits and stuck it on. And that then also helps to give the big picture over which then you navigate your life.
Yeah. And it's been really exciting because God has taken us to many nations. We never ever thought that would be the case.
And our children.
And it's been just incredible how he's done that. So in all of this, okay, the big question, which barrier can you remove from your life or marriage today that you can live from a place of meaningful endurance? Maybe you need to go back to your own personal calling. Maybe you can look at what are the personal calling aspects that complement each other, that polarize, and celebrate them, guys, instead of using them against them. Okay? And maybe you need to just create your own family crest. I don't know. Okay, but that's for you. So in all of this, you're probably asking the question, what the heck does this have to do with conflict and and becoming intimate? Well, I hope it's clear, guys. If we can really learn to not be reactive and live out of a place of knowing we belong, all right, we can deal with conflicts more wholly and more healthily. And gee whiz, when we know we are living for a big picture and that he's given us our own callings, the calling over us as a couple, man, it gives us such an incredible way to endure so many different things. Okay, so God bless you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the devil hijacks our identity, then he's got our destiny. And why are we here? We're here because the world needs loving.
Yeah. Okay. That's us. 8:00 on the dot. My word.
Sorry, Michelle, the question time is.
Yes. If anyone has any questions, please could you just pop it in the chat at the moment, and then we can tackle it and see where we go from there. But I just want to say, Andre and Jen, what you brought this morning is really something that God has been dealing with me in my life very much about, finding or identifying what the purpose is, what our mission is together, what my mission is on my own, and that type of thing. So it's been such a wonderful thing to see and to listen to you guys bring that again, because it just re-emphasizes it for me.
for me, I made a note when you were going through, and when you said the deceiver, they believed that they were reacting to their belief. And for me, like, we've all got certain beliefs about ourselves on who we are and what we do and that kind of thing. And sometimes those beliefs are not always right. So we have felt, and it only happened this week that it came up. We were seeing a couple and they were going through a really, really tough phase. And as we were talking to them, it was like I was getting this red flashing light. You know, that Love Dare book that was in fashion so many years ago, the Love Dare Challenge, the Love Dare Challenge. And we encouraged that couple to start the Love Dare Challenge. And we reached out to a precious couple on this group as well. We said, do it with us. We want to do it with us, and we'll do it together. They're not the couple in the bad place, by the way. It was another couple that we had seen. And we started with the Love Dare Challenge yesterday. And the Love Dare Challenge yesterday was all about that love is patient. And I thought to myself, no, I don't really have to deal with this too much because I'm quite a patient person. I really, really am. And the challenge yesterday was to be aware of the moments where you are not so patient. You're not. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this one's going to be a breeze. Like, I'm patient. I'm generally quite patient. And it started off with we were going to, our dog she's a Sealyham Terrier, but with this long beard. And she seems to walk around like carrying this beard on the floor.
It's like a broom.
It's like a broom, and this beard was looking brown. And I was like, okay. And Kevin had been saying to me this week, we must do something about this dog's beard. We must. And normally, when someone says we must,
Yeah.
it generally means you must.
And we've been holding faith that the groomer was actually going to pitch, but the groomer never pitched. So we
Yeah.
had to finally do something about it.
So I decided, okay, now's the time. And so I start trimming the dog's beard. And Kevin's on his phone, and I'm like, where's the we in we must here? And so the first niggle of the impatience kicked in. And then we still holding out for the groomer to come. And so we decided that we're just going to wash the dog's beard.
Yes.
We're not going to wash
Not the whole dog.
dog.
Not wasting money because the groomer will still arrive.
So my idea, if you're just washing the dog's beard, you just fill up a big like a couple of jugs with water, and you wash the beard and you rinse it. And Kevin starts running water in the bath. But I'm like, we're not bathing the whole dog. We're only washing the beard. And so the next irritation of impatience kicked in, and I was like, that's not quite patient, are you? And then we went grocery shopping together.
As you can hear, it was a very intense day yesterday.
And
We took that challenge by the horns yesterday.
yes. And so Kevin's putting all sorts of stuff in the trolley, and I'm like, but we just came in for chicken breasts. That's all we came in for.
Things were on special. You got to pile it in.
And so the next level of impatience kicked in. And then when we got to the till, so you can hear there's lots of and then we's. I say to Kevin, we're in a long till here. Keep an eye for me. I'm going to go find us a quicker one.
She never said a quicker one. In my defense, she said, keep an eye on me. I'm thinking, keep an eye on her so that I can wave when I'm at the till so she can bring the card so I can pay.
This wonderful till. I'm looking at him.
And
He's like,
I'm observing the birds and I'm looking around.
in Pick and Pay, but he's observing the birds. And I'm standing there and I'm going, Lord, I'm not that as patient as what I thought I was. I'm like, so I'm humbly just going to like drag my knuckles home and ask you to work in me, because it was like, you're not who you say you are. And so these things, so I'm going to encourage everybody, if everybody wants to join the Love Dare Challenge, like the first day was yesterday, for us, it can be your first day today. Love is patient. And today's one is we haven't read it yet, and I'm scared to go in it. I generally think I'm quite a kind person, but today's love is kind, so I don't know.
So we're not washing the dog and we're not going shopping because we know that those seem to be issues.
Yes. So sorry about my very long story, but if anybody's got any questions or they've got anything to add to it or they've got any takeaways, please feel free to add it and then we can chat about it.
Yeah, no, I see Harvey said very relatable. I'm just worried, Harvey, on which side are you the impatient side? Or are you the one being shown the impatience?
Well, Andre and Jen, like we really thoroughly enjoyed your chat today.
Every month is a treat.
We had some problems with our connection, so we were dragging our computer quickly into the office. And thank you for bearing with us. We really appreciate it. I don't know what has to happen on this day when we
Yeah.
get so excited
Works
to learn.
perfectly until you need it to work, then it doesn't work perfectly.
Mm,
Yeah.
we understand that. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it and just love your stories. Yeah, I'll think of Michelle all day with her knuckles dragging on the floor.
It's a drag. I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
Remember, everybody,
Okay.
today is Love is Kind. Love is kind.
It's kind.
Yes. Be aware of kindness.
Yes.
And happy Easter to everybody. And thanks to Andre and Jen. We really appreciate you guys so, so much.
Blessed Easter weekend.
Yes,
Enjoy the
guys.
time off. Okay, guys, we're going to call it. Have a lovely one. Ciao, everybody.
Bye.